All right, let's start off by taking a look at the components in Unbroken. Right off the bat, we have these are kind of the first thing you notice are these tracks, and they're recessed, so the cubes sit down in there. That's really nice. Helps to keep things, from flying all over the place. They're keeping track of resources basically. So the story of this game is that you were on a dungeon crawl, and your whole party got ambushed, and you luckily were able to escape, or you were enough of a coward that you ran away, or I don't know, but you survived. And so now that you survived, you only have your will to live and some time to start the game with. So those are the only resources we have. We have time, and we have effort. Like kind of like a general currency of like our health, our willingness to fight, our overall well-being kind of thing. And there's different levels of effort. So like basically you can spend some of this effort to get the upgraded effort, but this is like really strong effort and medium effort. So like you're really ferociously on a super high adrenaline high here, and this is like you're remembering that you are trying to get vengeance or something maybe there. I don't know. I'm making that up, but that's kind of how I think about it. Is that there's different levels of how hard you're willing to try to fight to live. Um, so these trackers are going to keep track of everything really nicely for us. But they're really not the core of the game, the center of the game. The center of the game is really this deck right here, which is the encounter deck. So the encounter deck is going to be really what we use a lot. Before we get into that, let's talk about how we're going to handle the encounters with our other things that we have. So we start the game off as a character, and there are 4 characters in the box plus a blank character that you could develop of your own. And then they're double-sided so that there's alternate art for each of the characters. I'm going to play with this hunter because I think he's pretty straightforward and pretty simple for this demonstration. So he has his own ability, his own travel action. So these are travel actions. Basically, there's 2 phases in the game, and so during the travel phase, he's able to look at the top 5 cards of the encounter deck and know what he's going to be coming into. He's got very good situational awareness. Plus, he's able to trap or hunt food with his bare hands, so he can spend effort to gain food. Food's a really critical resource in this game, and so he really makes food much more reasonable to get. He also has a response, which is a type of action you can have. So it's like a if then. If this happens, then this may happen. So if you're getting into the hunger step, so you've defeated a monster, you can get by on a little less food if you're playing as the hunter. So he's learned how to make do with less food. You also start off with bare hands as your weapon. So bare hands is basically going to do the damage that's indicated here, and it's not very good. You have to spend a lot of effort to damage at all to punch through and hurt someone. So you're really going to focus on the bottom half of this card early. That you want to try and upgrade your weapons to some, or your fist to some kind of weapon. So you're on a search for some steel early on, so you can spend some time and some effort to turn that steel into a knife, some kind of like maybe shiv or something. Or you can try and get some wood and just get a club. And then from there, there's like basically this game has a lot of flowcharts in it. I mean, a lot of flowcharts in it. And there's a flowchart of how the weapons would come out, essentially, where you're going to upgrade to one of 2 weapons. Then one of those 2 weapons can upgrade into other weapons. And you're going to end up with a lot of choices for weapons. I mean, here's all the choices that we have for different weapons in the game. But I think that you're going to need to have an advanced weapon by the end of the game is generally what it comes down to, because that last monster is going to be really difficult to kill. So one of your big objectives is trying to upgrade your weapon. Another deck that we have in there is the skill deck. So the skill deck is going to basically be something that we acquire as a reward when we defeat a monster. We're going to draw 2 skill cards and keep 1. And we're going to figure out which one of these skills would work best with our character. But they're going to do things like allow us to poison when we do our attacks, or give us some passive abilities that basically say that some of the effects that the monster could have would not impact us like they would otherwise. So the skills are good. They're going to make our character more interesting, more unique, and better as we go through the game. Another piece that I want to really point out are these 2. I mean, I said there's tons of flowcharts in this game. These 2 flowcharts are really, really important, and they really help keep you from missing little steps. So when I solo game, typically I have a really hard time following all the steps of the solo games, because I just get excited and I skip things. And this is going to help you to slow down a little bit and follow the path of what needs to be happening during our combat phase and our travel phase. And then on the backside we have a real good rules reference. Um, they call it a quick start guide, but I think honestly you could probably nearly learn the game from the quick start guide there. The rule book is pretty nice. It's nice and thick. It has a lot of clarifications on it. Uh, it's a well designed game. The designer did a great job on this game, I think, to make it so tight and so just engaging for it basically being flowcharts. At the heart of this game are these encounter cards. These encounter cards flip out, and I take two of them and I choose which one is going to be my choice here. So flowcharts again, like it's a flowchart. Which one of these two options am I choosing? And then there's basically a cost and a benefit on every card. So an if and a then. So if I spend one time in one effort, I will gain one food because of this old cartographer's map, and I can read the flavor text and get better with the stories going on there. And when you're playing by yourself and not just trying to explain the game, it is fun to read the flavor text. It makes it more thematic. Or I could spend two time to gain three normal effort because of some treasure that I found or this golden amulet that I can use. And those are both good things for me, but I have to decide, do I need food more or do I need the effort more? And so if I'm really low on effort, I might say, you know what, I'm going to take that effort. If I'm pretty good on effort, I could say food's really, really important for me. Based on the character I'm playing, the hunter, food is a little bit easier for me. So this one's not near as attractive as gaining more effort. So I would probably take this effort card here. A third thing that could happen, these cards are bad examples for it. So let's go ahead and flip two new cards out for it and get another example here going. Ooh, look at this. Burying a friend. So that's gonna like make you full of rage, make you want to try and vindict them, and they're passing. So it's gonna make you take one of these type of effort into the highest level of effort, but you have to have that one to do it. And so this would be a hard card at the beginning because you may not have that effort in order to do that, and it would just cost you one time. But that's a good card to do in general. The other one that can happen here is I can spend one effort to reveal the next three uh, encounter cards. So I could do that, but here's the thing. Remember my guy's ability? He has something better than that built into him as a character. So neither of these cards is really going to work very well for me. There's a third option I can do, which is resting. So I can spend the time on the card and gain that much just normal effort. So I could spend one time and gain one normal effort. And that might be a good choice for me at that point. I'm going to keep doing this, and there's almost a push your luck element to this game because you keep doing this and the time that you have on your track keeps going down. So up here on my time tracker, I'm spending this time right here. And when it gets to 0, I get ambushed by the monster. And if the monster ambushes me, that's bad news. I don't want that to happen. So I'm trying to, before, ideally at like maybe one time, get that monster to flip. So it's like, oh man, do I push my luck and try and go again? So what can happen though is that you're at like 2 and a 4 and a 2 come out, and you have to spend all your time in order to complete the encounter. So once we get to the point where we decide we want to fight a monster, we get into the other phase of the game, which is the combat phase. These are the basic monster cards. They have really nice art on them, and they're really easy to understand. And they've done this thing too. Again, a lot of times with these things, they're including blank ones, so that you can make your own little like fan expansion, or maybe somebody online will come up with some really good content, and you could paste up that card to get another one. But there's basically 6 of each level, and there just happens to be a 6-sided die with this game too. And at the bottom, there's a symbol that matches one of the symbols on this die, the slashes on the die. And so I'd roll the die, and I would determine that I'm going to fight one of these guys, one of these baddies. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull out the kobold because they're kind of fun, and we'll pretend like I rolled a 4. So what's going to happen is if there was an ambush, the kobold would be able to ignore my first attack, and they would get attack first. They get initiative. So it's pretty small at the level 1 monsters. Trickery is another thing that we can do. So we can try and like negotiate with the bad guy. We can try and bribe them, say, hey, here's some shiny metal. And they go, oh, thank you for the metal. And they run away, and it's okay. Then the other thing too is we have a response here. So this is another if statement. If you don't have any metal or wood at the beginning of the battle step, the kobold attacks once and gains +1 to all combat rolls. So you need to have some metal or wood available to you. If you don't, then they get something that buffs them up a little bit. But what's going to happen is I'm going to take an action on my turn. So assuming that I still had my bare hands, that'd be kind of unfortunate. But I would use 2 effort to take down their health 1. Well, on those tracker boards that we looked at before, I have his health tracked, and he would get one. He would get 1 of his health removed because I fought hard and tried to punch him and did 1 damage to him. If I had somehow acquired that bigger effort, I could do that, and that would be a knockout. That would knock the beast out. And then it's going to happen to be their turn. So on their turn, they're going to roll. They get a 1 miss, no effect. So I got lucky on that. After this combat's over, following that flow chart that I showed you earlier, I'm going to get the rewards indicated on the bottom. So I've learned some cunning. I took some loot off the body. I have brand new interest in surviving, that basic survival instinct or effort instinct. And then you're going to have that skill symbol there, which serves as like a reminder that when you defeat a monster, you are going to draw 2 skill cards and keep 1. And again, that's how we customize our character and make them a little bit better, and make the future encounters much more reasonable to do. Some of the mobs have armor on them. The armor is going to make it much more harder to hit them if they are armored. And so here are some of the higher level things that you could fight. And you can see they get much heavier hit points. We lose a bunch of effort on these. They hit hard and they have more hit points of health. But that's the whole point of this game, is that we're working hard to prepare our character for these encounters that come up later. So the idea of surviving and building something, all of this happens in the span of 20 minutes or so. So it's really pretty neat, and pretty fun to just do as an activity by yourself. That's not really even a rules explanation. That's just a kind of overview. One last thing I didn't talk about is sometimes you will get conditions from the mobs and things that happen that will make you paralyzed or something like that. It'll tell you which one to take out, and it's gonna haunt you for a while. The other thing that can happen too is you do on this track here, you reset your time when you start your combat encounter, and sometimes they make you lose time. So the more that you lose time in your combat, the less time you're going to have to plan and prepare for the next one, which really hurts as well. A final thing I didn't mention that I think is important enough that in an overview you need to know it, is that you can spend an action to scout and see what kind of bad guy you're going to fight before you go fight it, but it does cost. And it seems like the cost is really minimal in this game, are minimal to go do that, but the cost, everything you pay on this game is so painful to have to pay, because you don't want to spend anything. I mean, like anything, any resources at all, because you want to put them all towards getting prepared to fighting this guy. And it always ends up being so close. So there's one time where I won this game pretty easily. And the reason why I won so easily is because I played wrong. Every other time I've played it and I've played the correct way, it's been a very tight match where it comes down to me versus the level 4 monster, and it's close. The time I played wrong, I played 2 level 2 monsters instead of a level 2 and a level 3. So when I played that level 2 monster the second time, I one-shot it and just got a ton of rewards and had a ton of time come to me and everything like that. So I played it wrong. And so when I played it right, though, it's been always a very close game. So let's get back into the studio and I'll give you some more thoughts on just this gameplay and the game. Whew, thankfully my trusty license plate spear allowed me to get back here in the studio to give you some final thoughts. Anyway, this game overall, I really like it. I'm going to break down why I think it's a good game overall. It has really good from the ground up solo gameplay. And so a lot of times when games are made for solo gameplay from the ground up, they're less fiddly and they are just a more gratifying experience to play solo. And this is for sure one of those games. Whereas a game that's really designed for, like 2 to 5 players, and then they include a solo variant with like a deck of cards that simulates other players or things like that. That extra layer of fiddliness to me, like a lot of times, makes the game not as fun, and so I don't enjoy it. So I really enjoyed this game as a strictly solo game, as a strictly something that you do on your own. It's pretty streamlined, pretty quick. So that's really fun. I like the blend of like crafting, and I like the blend of like managing, balancing your decision making, trying to make it so that you can get through the dungeon, do the best you can to really okay, what's happening here? Am I gonna spend a little more time here, but then maybe I'll get ambushed by the monster, or am I prepared enough right now to go fight the monster? You know, you're making those important decisions. Just trying to get the best you can prepared, and it does feel like, I don't know, it feels like you're in a survival situation, kind of like you're trying to figure out how you'd survive this thing. I like the art in this game. It's really attractive art. Overall, the component quality in this game is really good. It's a nicely made game. So like that's something that is really enjoyable too in this game. So I've enjoyed playing this game. It's been a lot of fun. Let's put some numbers to it now. And some things. So who does this interest? Well, this is going to be a solo game fans game. I mean, people who like have a lot of opportunities to play solo games, or people who have a lot of opportunities to do things solo, are gonna really enjoy this. I think the theme is gonna be for most people. I know some people like get a little bit put off by gore and violence. And there is, I mean, not really gore in this, but there is, you know, combat and fighting and things like that. So some people may not like that theme, but I think most people are going to be okay with it. It's not over the top where it's real graphic violence or the monsters are so over the top scary that it's going to be intimidating. But it is like the idea of combat and survival and fighting. The fun on this, I'm giving a 4 out of 5. I think it's a pretty fun game. I enjoy trying to solve this puzzle, do it better every time. The score sheets, which I didn't really highlight much, give you like goals that you're going to try and constantly be beating and doing better with. The replayability is a 4 out of 5. So all these are above average ratings. The replayability is as high as it is because that deck of cards gives you different choices every time. And so you're doing different things to prepare. You have a bunch of different monsters you can fight, and you start as different characters. So all that gives it a chance to be played a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different combinations of ability to play this game. So I think that's pretty neat too. The design and the art in this game, I'm giving a 4.5 out of 5 because I think that the way how the components are done in this game and the art and just how the flowcharts are and the streamlined gameplay, it's just really, it's very clever how it's done. That's really the strength of this game, is that it's easy to understand and a lot of fun to solve and a lot of fun to play. And the components do the job really well. So a 4.5 out of 5. So that lands with this getting an overall rating of 4 out of 5, which is a perfectly good rating, a good rock solid rating, and something that I think is for a lot of people out there. So if you're a big fan of solo games and you get a chance to play solo games quite a bit, this one's going to give you a like pretty grand feeling of a survival type game, a crafter type game, dungeon crawl a little bit type game, in a pretty compact package that you can get set up, play, and put away in less than a half an hour usually, maybe a little more depending on how much you're really thinking about your decisions and things. But overall, that really is a fun package. So at any rate, this has been Unbroken, and I've been Joel from the Board Game Mechanics, and keep gaming.